So, good morning, everyone. So, I am here to discuss since it's very hard, man, good to discuss the entire modules by having our group or by group. Okay, we need to catch because April 27 and 28 will be your prelim examination. So, I'll be the one to discuss the entire module 1 and module 2. So we'll resume our discussion right after na your prelim exam. Okay? So please be mindful sa ako because I'm just new using this app. So na-discuss na gano'n din ako uban, so that's why I need to discuss directly na lang the content of the CM1. So the topic is all about the history and nature of tourism. So the content would be tourism industry, history of tourism as a globalized system, and history of Philippine tourism. So at the end of the module, you will explain the history and its relationship to the world and history. Develop a sound understanding of tourism in a broad range. Demonstrate a conceptual understanding of tourism model to interpret the relationship between the tourism and hospitality. So, there are components of tourism. The main components of tourism are accessibility, accommodation, and attraction or local. So, basically, they are what you call the three A's. So, when you say accessibility is something that the attraction is easy to go with by the tourist. So, dali siya adtuon, dili siya lisod, pangitaon. So, accessible siya, the word is accessible, easier from the side of the tourist. You see, accommodation is something that the tourists can stay, can rest, or the purpose why they're having their vacation is for them to relax. So there is a place for them to relax. And lastly, the attraction. Attraction itself is something that the tourists wanted to visit, wanted to go with. So that's the purpose why they travel to a certain place to another because they want to witness, they want to feel, they want to see what the place, what the country can offer to them. So dili na siya pwede nabuwagon ang tulo ka A sa component of tourism. Thus, it entails there the definition among the three. Then now let's proceed to the elements of tourism. There are certain elements of ingredients of tourism. They are a fundamental attraction of tourism. Like for example, pleasing weather. When you say pleasing weather, the weather there is cold. Like for example, it's summer and you wanted to go to Baguio kaya para ma-relax ka. Kaya bugnaw man ang Baguio. So the weather there is one other factor that you consider Baguio as a place to travel with. Or kung doon lang guys sa Talisay, you wanted to go to the mountain. Diba? Kaya bugnaw sa mountain. So yun, ana. Scenic attraction. When you say scenic attraction, it is a place that entails beauty to a certain area, to a certain place. Historical and culture factor. Also, you say historical, you say culture factor. It is something that a certain places are to. The certain place they can offer. Like for example, in a pre-Hispanic era, you wanted to travel to museums, di ba? So lain-lain na siya. Depende on the purpose why you travel to a certain place. Kung unsay gusto nimo mahibalaan, kung unsay gusto nimo ma-feel, or kung unsay gusto nimo nga ma-encounter. Next, accessibility. It is important factor in tourism. There should be accessibility for each location of the tourist attraction. Like for example, you want to go to a certain place na bati og dan. Matagam gyud ka bati unsa ka indot ang usa ka place. Kung bati ang dalan, kung lisod siya adtuon, delikado siya adtuon, wala gyud maadto. So that is why the government interfere. Ano man, because the government is the one to provide easy access for the tourists to come over to their place. And aside from that, ano man kinahanglan si government to interfere? Because it is a sort of income sa ka area. Like, makabantay mo nga na ay environmental fee, na ay unsa pa ng laing mga fees na kanang ng bayranan. So it automatically goes to the government. And it is a sort of taxes, it is a sort of income na certain place. Amenities, what a certain place can offer, what a certain place can deliver to the customer. accommodation, the place where they stay. And also, the most important thing is safety and security. Because you want to travel to a certain place, it should be safe. It should be, labi na karon Holy Week, summer na, most people travel. Go to beaches, go to different churches. So, dapat safe po na. Like for example, a certain place na igubat, ganahan pa ka maadto ba sa kainit ang lugar. Di ba? Dito ka mangadto, kaya naman. Kuyaw man, delikado man. And my goodness, it can cost a life. So, dito ka musugot nga mao na ang buhaton. Then, there are characteristics of tourism and hospitality. First, in tourism hospitality, the product is not brought to the customers. Rather, the customers has to travel to go to the product to purchase it. Exactly. Remember, the tourists are the one who go to a place para mapalit sila. It could either be the food, it could either be the souvenirs. Dili kay ang souvenirs at hindi ra mamugos sa customers. Whether we like it or not, people travel to a place bears nothing. Of course, wala ko na sila dala. Gikan sa Ilocos, gikan sa Baguio. Di mo sila naman dito ra sa Baguio. Di ba? So the product of tourism and hospitality are not used up. They do exhaust the country's natural resources. The product and other industries have limited life, and the product and it are either junk or replaced with new one. So, dapat evolving siya ang product. Dapat ang product kanang properly innovated, improved every now and then. Then tourism and hospitality is a labor-intensive industry. Why? Because it entails, it needs to have more manpower. Because these people, these tourists is, like for example, daghan kaayo na ngadto sa usa ka beach. You have noticed daghan kaayo staff ang usa ka hotel or usa ka place nga laaganan. Nga naman, because you need to accommodate the tourist. Dili kay para dili matagam ang tourist. They feel that they are valued. Tourist feels dapat nga kanang properly accommodated sila, properly treated sila. Okay, of course, pero ganun pa sila magbalik-balik because the power of mouth is very important. Like for example, I go to a place na bati kaayo. Manabi ko sa akong mga friends nga ay na pag-adto kay bati ka ako ng experience, di ba? Or even the power of social media nowadays. Even you posted bati lang, even a word, a sentence, or a phrase, automatically it trends. So, ang mga tao is matagam yun na. Then, tourism and hospitality people are oriented. Of course, they should be oriented. They should know how to treat people properly. They should know where exactly the bathroom, where exactly the place to stay, where exactly the place to eat. So, dapat aware na ang mga neighborhood, aware na ang mga tao ng imong kapangutanan. Unless otherwise, you ask also for a tourist for imong gipangutanan. So, dapat knowledgeable sila, ang people around the area. And then, tourism hospitality is multidimensional phenomenon. When you say multidimensional phenomenon, it is something that people is well diverse, well communicated. For example, you go to Thailand. There should be a person who can communicate in Thailand language or in even English language. Like when I visit to Thailand, most even the people in the airport they doesn't know how to speak English. So maka-irritate. So what you need to have in order to adjust, you need to have your own translation in your phone para masabta nila, mabasahan nila. That's how Google Translation is important when you travel abroad. Unless otherwise, you go to a certain places where they communicate English. Pero kung Thailand, like akong pinaka travel abroad nga mag-lisod yung English is Thailand. Well, in Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Taiwan, they speak naman little bit of English. So, it will be easier for you to communicate. Then, tourist hospitality industry is seasonal, indeed. Like that other time people wanted to go to beaches. Only summer na. Di ba? Not all the time people wanted to go to the mountain. Labi na init or unsa whatsoever there. So, seasonal siya. Pasabot, cycle siya. Not all the time of the year nga ang tao is gustong adto. Then, tourism hospitality services. What is service? Service are a special form of product which consists of activities, benefits, or satisfaction offered for a sale that are intangible and do not result in the ownership of anything. In the following, we will go into the most relevant characteristics of service, and there are four: intangibility, inseparability, variability, and perishability. So when you say intangibility, service cannot be seen, tasted, felt, heard, or smelled before. So we say intangible, you cannot visibly see it, but you can feel it. Diba? So yung ana ang service, di mo makita nga ikuan ka compare sa manufacturing, ang manufacturing kay makita man mo ang result. While interoperability, service cannot be separated from their providers. Of course, in you say service, there should be someone behind of it. There should be someone who do a certain task, a certain action before the customers being felt what they did. Then variability. Because the quality of service depends on the provides who provides them and when, where, and how. When you say variability, it can be easily done. It can be easily promulgated. It can easily be seen, be felt by the customer. Unless a perishability, service cannot be stored for a later sale or use. Service will be done right after conduct siya towards the customer. Dili siya ingon nga gibuhat ako daan ang pagmanicure, uman na ako ihatag or magtupig ko daan, unya na ako ipasa nimo ang tupig human. Di ba dili ingon ana? Tupihan ka, kuhaan imong buhok, that's how service being done. So ma-feel nimo directly. So, importance of tourism and hospitality. Tourism and hospitality has become one of the world's major industries of both developing and highly developed nations that are taking a close look on the following potentials. Like, for example, the contribution to the balance of payment. When you say contribution to the balance of payment, of course, when the customers receive a service or a product, of course, is exchange of money, exchange of bill or peso. So that's the equivalent of the payment. Of course, as seller, as in the organization, you should be compensated what the people pay. Nimo, dili ka manikas, dili ka magminaro. Dispersion of development. Like for example, when say dispersion of development, each places, manotice nimo, ang kawasan, ato na ibutang. Bati pa kayo ni pag-una, wala pa tayo ng mga tindahan, pero karon na na. So you notice that the development may vary, development may be done every now and then. Why? What's the purpose? What's the reason why people, why the government interferes to develop a certain place? Of course, a sort of income. If people come and go to a place, they pay something as an exchange of the service that they render or the service that they receive. Di ba? Mahibong ka kanong mahal ang tubig sa Mindanilla or sa Maalbual or whatsoever asa nga places because i-travel naman ang certain commodity. As a law of supply and demand entails, the more supplies nga little demand, the price goes high, ay goes low. But the demand is high, but the supply is low, the price goes high. Kung pasabot, kung daghan kaayo baligya ang mangga, ting mangga karon, ang mangga barato na lang. Kaya naman, daghan ng supply sa mangga, but gamay ra ang mamalit. Mo nang barato para mahalin. Pero kung dili ting mangga, but daghan kayo demand, gamay ra kay supply, mo na ang price mo mahal. Kabantay mo kung uwan mo mahal ang isda. Ganang mamahal man ang isda, sir. Kay gamay ra man ang supply, daghang demand. Yes? So, the effect of the general economic development. General economic development is something that improvement to a certain economy, to a certain place. Anong kinahanglan man? Anong importante man? Because it will endure expenses man. Like for example, a source of business sa people living in the area na maligya na sila og tinda, na maligya na sila mga supplies, mga goods, mga imnunon. So it's a source of income sa family nga nagstay near sa place. So that's the economic development it entails here. Then employment opportunities, of course. When season like karon it's summer, most people visit to beaches. Makabantay mo nga daghang trabahante. Daghang negosyo nga itukod. The more business na established, the more people they need. That is why the employment status goes high. The social benefits. Social exchange takes place when tourists come in contact with the inhabitant places where they visit. Of course, you can meet someone, you can meet the owner, you can contact them in advance because they post it in social media. Your social connections will increase. So that's what can these industries being tackled with. And next would be the educational, the cultural enrichment. Musical cultural enrichment. People also wanted to visit a place where their cultural heritage takes place. Like makaingon ka, na indot dere maari kay because ang simbahan is old, nga heritage, nga holy. So lain-lain og purpose, lain og function, the reason why they visit to a certain place. Makaingon pagka diri ni kuyo si Rizal, diri ni kuyo si isa pa na mga bayani din na. So that's what people wanted to visit because they want to feel the experience. They want to see the experience on how they lived 100 years ago in Ana. Educational significance, of course, it will enrich your knowledge, it will improve your knowledge to a certain place. That's why it is very important. Then, there are pioneers in the tourism and hospitality industry. And there are people, there are persons seated here, kung kinsa na sila, they are Zessarites who become the general manager of Savoy Hotel in London. So Hilarious Hotel na siya sa London. So siya ang karon kay Ritz Carlton Hotel nga gipangana. Next, Ellsworth Melton Settler. So you familiarize these names ha because at least you enrich your knowledge to a specific tourism and industry. Tourism industry nga area. So Conrad Hilton, Thomas Cook, Howard Derrick Johnson, William Marriott, Ray Kroc, Isidore Sharp, Ruth Fertel. Then also these names, how you familiarize those names. Then proceed to the classification of travelers based on personality. We say Ficocentric, people centered on the self-inhibited and adventurous. When they travel, they prefer to visit safe destination. You say Ficocentric ka nga pagkatao, ganahan ka og assurance. Ganahan ka og something nga ikaadto mo safe na andam na tanan, prepared na tanan. Dili pa kayo ingon nga ikay may mangita. Ikay pa mag-search dito once maabot na ka. Diba there are people like that nga ganahan sila maadto og place nga naka-set up na tanan, naka-arrange na. Ikaabot nila, kung sila sa kanan, isa sa hotel, tuog na ditso. Or laag na ditso. That's egocentric. Usually allocentric people have interest in other persons, highly curious or thrive or stimulation by change. They are strong. They need variety of new experience. These allocentric are people, what you say, explorer. They wanted to discover something by themselves. They need something that is new to them. Mas ganahan sila kung ato pa nila na experience, ato pa nila na skill, na dili alim or whatsoever. Muna sila mga allocentric ng people. While med-centric, people who reside in the middle. They prefer going to a safe place but still hesitant to experience new things. Like when you say mid-centric, it's a middle between philcentric, ecocentric, and allocentric. Ang mid is, if either di ganahan ko dito, pero mahadok po ko. It's between, it's neutral. In ana. So, classification of travelers based on the purpose of travel. First, business. When you say business travelers, you visit to a place because you have work. It's in line with your job. It's in line with your job description. Like ako before when I traveled to Tagaytay, because it's part of my job as an auditor. When I traveled to Baguio, I went there to audit a certain hotel, a certain restaurant. So dili ka nangadto para mulaag. Nangadto ka part siya sa laag. But ang main purpose mo is to travel for business. Then there are specification of regular business travel. So indicated here, then business travel like attending meetings, convention, congress, possible po na. Labi na, like for example, you are opted be a professional soon, you are part of a certain organization, then it's part of the organization to travel to a certain place to another. Di ba? So, mao po na siya. Next is, for if either for personal, nang travel ka, so lain-lain og reason why people travel to a certain place. It can also be a travel because you are a vlogger. Di ba? Mao man ang mga vlogger, if ma-notice mo, mga to silang place, ilang i-report, ilang i-sulti, ilang experience, what these places can offer, what these places can deliver to the customers, to the tourists. And sometimes also you travel for family, gathering sa family, or you travel din by your partner. If na may partner, wala ag mo, sa mo uyab. So, those are main reasons why people travel. So, lain-lain. It may varies to the reason or the purpose why you travel, but at the end of the day, you wanted to feel what this country, what these places can offer. Then there are travel constraints. Which travel constraints? These are the reason why people tend not to travel. Possible reason nga hindered sila nga mo travel. Nga hesitant sila nga mo travel. Main reason, lack of money. Labi i-travel, pero may kwarta. Di ba? Lack of time. Na kwarta, pero busy sa work. Lack of safety and security. Ay, mahadlok ka mo travel din na kaya basta na igubag, basta na ipinatyanay. So, physical disability. Of course, kung masakit na ka, mahadlok na gid ka nga mo travel, lisod na. Family commitments, lack of interest in travel, so lain-lain. Ay tao nga di ka nag-travel, hasulan na sa balay ra, in computer, or sa internet, moro yun nilang kalipay. Then fears of travel. So remember ha, the concept here for the constraints is when you're still a kid, college ka, you don't have money, you have time, you're physically fit. But once you're working, you have money but you don't have time. But you are physically fit to travel. But when you are older, kanang tigulang na, you have money, you have time, but you are disabled, you have the difficulties to travel. So always remember, once as early as possible, as young as possible, do not commit into marriage yet, into relationship, or don't get pregnant. Travel sa, because you cannot do it kung anak. If naamang gani, possible na makalaag ka, siguro ka na dako-dako na yung mga anak. So I may not judge everyone. I may not judge people or students here. Ganun yung mga anak. Still, you can have time. You can travel with your husband or your wife or your babies. Possible na. But it's a different travel. Once you travel with your friends or you travel alone. Because that is a time where you can experience or reconcile who you really are. It's something that you can say that self-searching. You need to find asa ka nagkuhang. You need to find asa ka na karon. Kung sa achievement mo at the age of like that. Is it appropriate? Is it well compensated? Or sobraan na kaglingaw-lingaw sa kinabuhi? Wala kay achievement. Diba? So, imo na hunonaon. So that's the end of the discussion for CM1. So this time, do not forget that I already posted the link for the Google form na ato ninyo i-transfer yung answer sa assessment. Okay? So same thing, na-discuss naman din ako, before tier 1 and 2, you may submit directly the assessment na lang sa inyong classmate para ansira nila. Same thing, you get the scores, you check it, and I'll get the raw score. Okay? So, thank you and God bless.